You're tuned in to the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast.
Welcome back to the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast. I'm your host, Lenore. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode, because this is a place where we help educate and build influence while making an impact on many lives. More info at brandambassadorselect.com. So these past couple of months have been very difficult to navigate, especially for those couples who are now both working from home or unfortunately have been furloughed or even laid off due to the uncertain times and are now around each other every second of the day. Truthfully, lucky enough that my fiance and I have not stopped working, but I've been hearing a good amount of friends and family members saying that being stuck at home with their significant others has not been a walk in the park. So if you're feeling that way, don't worry, because you're definitely not alone. So that's why today I've invited international marriage expert Marc Johnson and the owner of High Thrive Coaching as a guest on today's show. You can consider their services as an ICU for marriages. Their method is radically different than traditional counseling. Plus, he's going to share the rarely talked about step to get the spouse back that wants out. So Marc Johnson, welcome to the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast.
It's great to be here, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Now, before we dive into the secrets of a successful marriage, what really inspired you to create High Thrive Coaching?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a story, but I found myself bouncing between jobs, and at some point I just kind of figured I needed to take things into my own hands. Oddly enough, though, a lot of this came about from encouragement and support from my wife. She was the one that connected me with my business partner, Heather, and got the ball rolling, so to speak. And I just kind of picked it up from there and took it further. So, I mean, really what it was about, I had always been interested in, helping people with marriages. That had always been a topic that I had studied and researched when I was at school. And Heather and I really wanted to make an impact with something that we found fulfilling. I really highly value, my own family and just families in general. And I wanted to, I was sad to see a lot of friends and even family members who were struggling with their relationships and giving up. And so we started this company.
So especially right now with, everybody or coming out of, lockdown and quarantine, we've been with our significant others like 24/7, and we're like, get away from us. What are some of the advice that you have for individuals who are now stuck together just because we have no choice?
That question has come up quite a bit.
So you definitely have the answer.
Yeah, it tells me that, a lot of people are like, okay, what do I do when I actually have to spend time with my husband or wife? And, what I've been telling everyone is that, to have some acceptance that, there's going to be a little bit of extra stress. There's going to be a little bit of adjustment having to spend extra time with each other. But even more than that, it's coming from, a real need for being able to have some time to yourself and away from other people, not having expectations from other people. So, and I think that's all that's really needed in those sort of situations, is to make sure that there is room for the things that are needed, such as alone time. I mean, just the other night, I was really looking forward after a long day spending time with my wife, and I saw her face and I could tell that she had a stressful day. And I was like, you know what? I can tell that you just need some time to yourself. I would love to spend some time with you, but, let me know if you want to spend some time. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave you alone. And it's just that kind of situation, that kind of stance, I think, that really works in a time like this.
I think you were just right with the whole being able to actually communicate. And yes. Reading, facial expressions and body behavior, because I think that has a lot to do with it, instead of just, coming at somebody like, hey, what are you doing?
Well, I think a lot of what it comes from is kind of this neediness. Like, you might have one partner who's saying, okay, I really want to spend time with my significant other. We need to connect, or we have all this time and they're thinking about, okay, what they're interested in, what they need. And I've encountered this over and over again. And I don't know, I'm the kind of person that really, I spend all day listening to people. So it seems a little bit foreign to me to have to remind people, hey, you actually need to consider maybe what your spouse might be needing or wanting in these sort of situations as well. And then it's okay if they can't always provide that.
Now, how are you guys and the stuff that you do at High Thrive Coaching, how is it different from traditional therapy and counseling?
Well, I think we differ in a number of ways. Structurally, we tend to offer a lot more support. The kind of market that we quite often help are the people who are in kind of dire circumstances. Maybe their spouse has already talked about divorce or separation, is considering leaving. And so we want to make sure that we are really helping them out. So we have like a traditional, say, one-on-one session, but then every day of the week, and sometimes twice in a day, our clients can come into a group call, and either myself or someone from my team is there to answer some questions. There might be an argument here or there, and one of our clients might need just a little course correction. So we have those. And then beyond that, I've created an extensive, library of training videos on different topics, which is, you don't always get in a traditional therapy setting. You come in for your, once a week, once every other week appointment, and then, you don't really, when I was in that kind of setting, I would find my clients wouldn't really do anything in between those appointments. But then, this is also a little bit different philosophically in terms of how we approach problems. I know a lot of therapists who wouldn't really touch this sort of situation where one spouse is already considering leaving. They'd say, well, we can't force them to come back. And, yes, I would agree with that to a certain extent, but I'm of the philosophy that, no matter where you are at, there's something that you personally can do to change your circumstances. Even if this is just improving the relationship so that you can co-parent better together, all the way up to, being that rock and drawing your spouse back into the marriage.
So
I could go on and on, but,
If I needed some help, right, and I'm not, close to you, do you guys do things virtually? Is that how it's been running?
Oh, that's exclusively how we do it. So I personally have clients all over the country, but then I also meet with clients. I have some in the UK. I have a couple in Germany right now. I'm meeting with someone in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand.
All over?
All over, yeah. So it's a little bit difficult when they're all in Australia and New Zealand, getting the time zone difference. They're good. They're, anywhere from about 12 to 14 hours ahead of me, but we make it work.
Okay, so now I gotta know, what's your secret? Like, what's the secret? I think I've did all the little prep work beforehand. We got to know who you are, all that other fun stuff. Now let's get to the facts. What is the secret to a successful marriage?
Well, we approach it with what we call our PATH method, and this is marketing, but it works. Like, you have that catchy acronym, but really there are some secrets here. So PATH stands for like having some, gaining some perspective, taking some action, focusing on the T is for tell a news story, focusing on that narrative or story, and having some hope. Now, this is specifically for those couples who are in trouble, but in terms of just simply having a happy marriage, I think the secret is a lot of understanding and communication and flexibility. So my wife and I, for instance, we're very, very open with each other. And I quite often find that the couples who struggle are the ones that either don't have an avenue to discuss concerns and have them resolved, or don't have an avenue to discuss wants and needs and have those supported. And as long as you can have those kind of things in abundance, for the most part, most couples will be pretty good.
You said that it could be an avenue on how to bring things up. Can you give us an example of that? Is it just like, okay, well, our safe space with our talking stick today? Is that how it works?
Well,
Listen, I'm getting married, so I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, no. I'm glad you're asking this. No, personally, I don't like that kind of structured setting. It's what I call a crutch. Much like in a medical setting, you might need a little bit extra structure, a little bit extra support while you're healing, or if you're struggling a little bit. Now, what I'm really looking for, there's lots of different scenarios that would make this work. It's just as long as the two of you can connect and talk and be open about it.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you're concerned because your fiance doesn't want to have these deep discussions, you need to have an ability to bring that up, and for it to, that concern to not be shot down, for that discussion to be open, and for the two of you to cooperatively come to some sort of resolution. So in some couples that might be much more formal, and others it might be very loose. This is as long as you have some way to make it work. And that's a lot of what I will do with an individual couple, is I say, okay, what kind of personalities are we working with here? And where can we, if I'm just trying to get them from okay to great, then I look at that. Where can we create these avenues here?
So let's go back to the PATH method. How did you create that?
Well, I took a look at what my teachers taught me some time ago, and I started applying that. And so my background in education started with cognitive behavioral therapy, which is we talk about their thoughts and their feelings and their actions. And so I started working with clients on that, and our market, like I said, is in these dire circumstances, and I would help my client make a bunch of changes. They would adjust them, how they were approaching things. And we still kept hitting walls. They still weren't making a lot of progress. So we have that aspect where we're getting that understanding and taking action. So the real big shift came about when I went a little bit deeper, and I started talking about their story or narrative. And I will admit, this is kind of branching from even some of the education that I was talking about. There is a branch of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a narrative therapy. But I would find that the spouse who was leaving would say to themselves, I can't make this work. Or if I come back to the marriage, even though I'm seeing changes, if I come back to the marriage, it's going to go right back to the way things were. And that's all it was. It was a perspective, mm-hmm. a story, the narrative that they'd built up. And they just kept reinforcing it. They're seeing their world, their interactions through this lens. And so I started saying, well, how would I help my clients shift that, help someone else shift that story? And that's where we started really making a lot of progress with our clients, is when we approached it from that angle and really kind of dug down to the more deeply held beliefs and thought patterns that the spouse is really holding on to.
Now, can you still help somebody, or can you still help a couple where an affair happened?
Oh yeah, I mean that's.
Are you gonna say that's like the biggest one?
Oh, that's. I'm trying to think of like numbers here. It's at least 50% of our clients are kind of in that boat, if not more.
And the PATH method still can work for them, correct?
Oh yeah. There's a little bit of a different approach with that. Mm-hmm. It also depends on whether the person engaged with the affair it's still ongoing, whether they are, I do have some clients who are coming that saying, we just had an affair, we're trying to get over it. It really depends on what stage they're at, whether they're like, I want this affair, whether they are, kind of in that limbo state where they're bouncing back and forth, or where they're trying to repair it. But, I've helped couples at all stages. Now,
can you give, without disclosing, I know like patient confidentiality, okay. Without disclosing all that, can you give us an example of a couple who successfully used the PATH method to really restore their marriage?
Sure. I'm looking at, I'm thinking about one of my favorite clients that, just because, and I'll get to it in the story. So I'd work with, and I'll just change the names. We'll call him Nathan. I'd worked with Nathan for some months, and the problem that was being presented was he came to me and he said, okay, my wife has this really bad spending problem. She, when I try to approach it, she claims that I'm controlling, and I can't ever, here's this block where no one can talk about problems. Mm-hmm. She couldn't talk about him being controlling. He couldn't talk about this excessive spending. And it got to the point where she's saying, I'm done. She's separated. And so I talked with him. We start with that P for perspective. I said, okay, why would she be spending like this? Why would she be getting upset when you were approaching this? And I helped him to approach it with a lot more care and understanding and patience. After that, we started talking about, okay, how can we shift some of your behavior and action? And he started being much more supportive, much more, trying to help her out quite a bit more, even though she was really standoffish. And this is what I loved about it. The story is it got to the point here where she says, I can recognize that you've changed. I can probably, if I came back, we might be able to be happy, but I'm just not going to do it. And it got all the way to the point where days before, all they had to do was show up at the court and sign the papers. That's all they had to do. Mm-hmm. And then everything would be done. And she called him up. She said, I can't do it. And she said, even though I was rejecting you, even though you'd done all these changes, you stayed consistent and you kept being supportive and kept being understanding, even though I was a jerk to you. And she said, I want to come back. And so the other part of this is I had stopped talking with him. I said, okay, well, I've kind of resigned this too. We tried our best. And so I see him on my calendar, like a couple months after I had last spoke to him. I said, okay, what is this about? And he set an appointment simply to thank me and say, hey, my wife is back with me now. And it was really kind of it was a nice moment for me.
You're saving love.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's what makes this really fulfilling. I'm at this point kind of in the business where I can take a step back from the money. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about all the administration. I can give those things to other people. And this is really what it's all about to me. I love being able to talk to people and being helpful.
Okay, so if somebody listening needs help, how can they get help? Can they just go straight to your website, highthrivecoaching.com, and make an appointment? Is it that easy?
They could. Yeah. So what I have some team members that are able to, they're there for some complimentary calls to kind of just hear your situation out and see if it's something that we actually could help with. Now, I don't like to be in a position where we're promising the world and not able to deliver it. So I have my team members there to make sure that people aren't wasting their time or money with us. But yeah, if they go to the website, there is a link there where they can set one of those calls up. It's completely free. If beyond that, people just want to kind of check out how I approach things, my philosophy, they can certainly go to our Facebook page, or we're on YouTube as well. On Facebook, it's the Thriving Marriage, and I do a podcast every week with lots and lots of helpful tips and whatnot. So there's lots of ways to check us out.
Is the podcast named The Thriving Marriage?
Oh, this is embarrassing, but we have we're 50 some episodes in, and I'm trying to remember what we actually call it, because we broadcast in the Facebook page, The Thriving Marriage, mm-hmm. and we are High Thrive Coaching, but I think it is The Thriving Marriage Podcast.
Do you do it by yourself, or does your co-partner help you out with that?
Yeah, Heather is there many weeks, and I think those are the best ones where we're able to kind of bounce conversation off of each other. There are a number of ones where I'm just doing it by myself. But yeah, we often do it together, Heather and I.
Perfect. So Marc, thanks so much for joining us today. Again, you can reach out to him at highthrivecoaching.com. That's HIGH Thrive, THRIVE, coaching, COACHING.com, or even on Facebook, facebook.com/The Thriving Marriage. Now, Marc, personally, give me some advice before I get into marriage. I have till next year. I have the ring. We're in the process. So lay it on me.
Oh, no, you know what? I'm glad that you're approaching it from this, because I keep hearing people ask about this, and I keep thinking, okay, do I need to put together a pre-marriage class? It's been on my mind for quite some time. But the big advice that I would give is to make sure that you have, here's the thing, you and your fiance are probably on your best behavior right now.
I hope
You're
so.
probably, you get together and it's like these glowing moments, and you're showing your best face. And I think that that's wonderful. That's great. But eventually, you're going to get comfortable, and it's going to be a little bit more real. And I just what I tell people is, make sure that before you get married, you're aware of that, and you are ready to
Take it on.
you're ready to actually face some of those little problems, those little things, and have a plan for how you're going to discuss those sort of things.
Like, who does the dishes? Because I hate the dishes. Or the laundry.
Yeah,
I hate the laundry.
So something like that, like, hey, this is a real problem for me. Just being very open, like for me personally. I know that when I'm really stressed, I might lean towards more depressive symptoms. And my wife knows this about me. And so I say, when I'm like this, I just might need a little bit of space. I might need a little bit of extra patience. And the fact that I can be open with her about my struggles or my weaknesses makes it so much better. It means that I know that if I'm struggling, she's still going to be there for me, and she gets it, and I give the same sort of grace to her. I know her little quirks, and if something's bothering me, I know that I can go and talk to her, and it's not going to be a big issue if I say, hey, this is bothering me a little bit, or hey, I need a little bit more of this. So I would say, beyond anything else, if you have an ability to do those things, you can get through just about, most any problem.
Looks like we're going to have a discussion over dinner tonight. Thank you. You might as well bring it up now instead of waiting down the line.
That's perfect. And just say, hey, I want, this is where I want us to be very open with each other. And that's where I'm going. If you start off like that, not like we need to have a talk, we need to have this serious discussion, but like, I want us to feel very connected. I want us to feel very close. And I want to make sure that we are very soft. That's a very positive conversation, very connecting conversation.
So Marc, thank you again so much for joining us today. Again, highthrivecoaching.com. That's a wrap on another episode of the Brand Ambassador Select Podcast. I'm your host, Lenore, and we'll see you next time.